All right. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. Oh, the echo.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of echo in this room right now. Hopefully it doesn't pick up too bad, but...
Worst case scenario.
Right now it's just a barren wall, so as soon as we put stuff up, it'll be fine.
Yeah. We'll like tape towels to the wall or something.
Yeah, that'll be cool. We'll just put towel. That'll be our aesthetic.
Yeah, they're the guys that have towels on their walls.
They're the guys who have movie-themed towels.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Screen Weens. With
Yeah.
video.
I'm nervous. I don't want to like stray too far from the mic and have the whole episode. It's like, oh no, we can't hear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can always boost it, but then it's just like, it'll just be weird today.
Yeah, I'm gonna
try to stay like right here.
Yeah.
Without just staring at the mic. It's either I stare at Thomas, or I stare at the mic, or I stare into the camera.
Yeah.
I'm probably just gonna stare at Thomas.
I'm probably gonna be looking at my mic, looking at you, and then looking at the screen to make sure I look okay.
Yeah, make sure I don't just like get out of shot all the time. Because I tend to do that.
So if you haven't been able to tell, you got some changes going on up in here. We're a video podcast now.
For 2 episodes only.
Yeah.
Until we end the podcast.
Yeah. We're going to go, oh, we hate this. Just
be like, wow, we realize we hate each other.
It's like, God damn it, how dare you like the brown bunny?
Fuck you.
God, that movie is a judgment of your character.
Thomas, have I ever said that you remind me a lot of Vincent Gallo?
No, and I hope you never told me that again.
Thomas, let me let you know. Let me let you on a little secret. You remind me a lot of Vincent Gallo.
Well, is it because I think women are nasty? Are sick?
Because they are.
Demented creatures? No. Yeah, so...
We should get a third. You know how we are going to eventually have like 3 videos so that we can have an extra person? Like when we do have an extra person. We should just always have that set up and just have Droopy McCool there. Unless we have somebody else.
I can see that.
Or my cat.
Yeah.
Which will be sitting on screen. We should always have a cat cam. Just put the other camera on top of the cat. So it'll just be like walking around the house so people can watch something. Yeah.
There we go.
Genius.
Perfect.
Oh. Computer dying.
Yeah, it's heating up a bit. Hopefully
it's heating up.
Your mic might pick that up. I don't think mine will.
It's okay. The wonderful power of noise reduction will hopefully save us. If not, oh well.
Yeah, I'll move my computer over here next time.
Yeah.
Away from the mics.
Genius. Anyway, we're talking about 2 movies today. Charles Burnett's Killer of Sheep and Barry Jenkins' Moonlight.
Yes.
Which came out like 45 years apart or something like that. Or 35 years apart?
I thought you were going to say Moonlight came out 45 years ago. I'm like, that's not right. That's very wrong.
Killer of Sheep came out quite a bit ago. Almost 50 years. No, a little more than... Hold on. 42 years ago. I think it was 78, if I remember correctly.
Okay. I'll take your word on that. And
then
I don't remember
Moonlight
what year it came
was
out.
2016.
Yeah.
So. A little bit of a difference there.
It is.
So we'll be talking about that in a bit. But of course, as always, what did we do this week?
I watched werewolf movies.
Yeah.
I watched Wishmaster.
You watched all 4.
Yeah. Well, there was only 4.
How was that? You're just like, I want to go watch Wishmaster now.
I was like drawing.
My buddy Christian really likes Wishmaster. The first one.
The Christian. I'm like,
that one.
Okay. I don't like those movies. They're not good. Believe it or not. They're, monkey's paw, be careful what you wish for kind of story. I mean, obviously they're a bit more...
Like Hellraiser.
Yeah, almost.
Like Leprechaun.
Yeah, almost. They remind me a lot of, like, the quality of the Leprechaun movies.
Oh, no.
Maybe not that bad. I don't think it ever hits quite that level of low, but...
not a very high bar.
Yeah, the 4th one was the most interesting one, because the djinn... So, like, the main premise of these movies is... So, the djinn, which is, like... I'm not super familiar with the actual, like, djinn mythos, but basically like the origin of the genie. And
of the lamp.
yeah, and there's this little like red ruby that he has that he's in, and at the beginning of every movie, some woman will wake him up. It's always a woman too, which
because they're nasty.
Yeah, I guess they're just so nasty. But yeah. So most of the movies, he has like a telepathic link to who the Waker is, the person who awoke him, and
the Quaker.
Yeah, so like they can see whenever he's like granting a wish that's fucking somebody up. But in the fourth movie, they like removed that, and instead he just decides to seduce the shit out of the Waker. And it becomes like this weird love triangle. And he's like, her like third wish is like, I wish I could love you for who you truly are. So he's like, oh no, the prophecy, that I'll grant 3 wishes to the Waker and the Jinn will inherit the earth. But she has to love me for my true self. So it's like this weird like loophole where basically it's like an ungrantable wish. I mean, it's possible, but it's not likely because he's an ancient demon.
Sounds hot.
A woman who's she's not married, but she's like been with this guy in a wheelchair for a really long time, and he's like just a bitter asshole because he's like, you don't love me anymore because I'm not good at sex. She's like, that's not true. And then the Jinn's like, hey, I'm a hot attorney and I can make it happen for you. And it's just it's the weirdest one out of the whole franchise. And I found it to be the most enjoyable, but it was still a terrible fucking movie.
Nice. Any good werewolf movies? Or we have to tune in throughout October to find out?
I thought the Halloween 3 was good in a bad way.
Like entertaining, at least? Or
yeah,
something like that?
It was so strange. Like it takes place in Australia, and they're marsupials, and it's the only one of the whole franchise, besides maybe 6 that I've seen. I still need to watch 7 and 8, where the werewolves are like sympathetic because they're normally like the antagonists, but it's like the lore of the Halloween universe is that like werewolves are kind of a dying breed, and usually if they do kill people, it's like for survival, but
for survival.
But yeah, no, it was all right. It was strange, and it was quite entertaining to watch for me. But yeah, most of them aren't good. I haven't really enjoyed this werewolf watch, if I'm being entirely honest.
If you had just kept it at the horror movies throughout October, you might have enjoyed some things.
I might have.
I don't know what the fuck you were thinking. Oh, what if I make them all werewolf movies?
Because I wanted to find some good werewolf movies. I figured out of my catalog of 31 werewolf movies, there'd be a couple. There's been one that I hadn't seen before that I liked, which is Bad Moon, which I talked about last week.
So, how many have you watched out of your 31?
At this point, it's like 9. I need to really power down.
You've enjoyed
like
what, 2 of them?
Yeah, maybe I'd like round it up to like, maybe I generally like enjoyed 4 of them, but I wouldn't go as far to say as any of them have been good movies.
Any of them? No. Not even Bad Moon?
Bad Moon, I think it's enjoyable. I think it's fun, but like, if I really like lay it down and ask questions about it, it becomes kind of a mess. But it's fun. It's enjoyable.
Mess. If it's a fun mess, is that a good movie or a bad movie?
To me, it's somewhere in the middle.
Okay. So that's the closest you would say to a good movie you've seen so far?
Or An American Werewolf in London, which I also have a long list of problems with. John Landis, yeah.
The murderer.
The murderer. And the father of... he's a rapist, right?
Oh, that Max
Landis.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Landis family curse of being a fucking dickhead.
Yeah, I guess there was supposed to be a remake that Max Landis was making. It's still on like Letterboxd, but apparently like right after all that shit happened, it was like, oh yeah, this is no longer happening.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Good.
Because it probably A, wouldn't have been better than the original, and B, would have just brought profit to a shitty person.
Yeah. Well, did I watch The Chronicles of Narnia last week, or
I don't know if you had watched all of them, but you had at
the
least
first,
watched
right?
the first
Okay,
one.
well, we watched 2 and 3 of that, and 2's really good.
Is it?
I was surprised. I remember like enjoying the first 2, but I like legitimately think 2's like pretty entertaining.
Okay.
And 3's just fucking dreadful. It's so fucking bad.
3 was the last one they made?
Yeah, and the director for the first 2 isn't there, and the second movie didn't actually make a whole lot of money, and it had like a $230 million budget.
Yeah.
So Disney didn't produce that one, so I think Fox did.
Oh, okay. I remember there being quite a gap in between 1 and 2. I might be off on that. It
I
might
think
have just...
it's three
Okay.
years between 1 and 2, and then only 2 years between 2 and 3, but it's just so completely different and so bad. Speaking of bad, we're continuing our young adult adaptation journey. We watched The Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, which I've seen like 8 times because my mother really enjoyed the movie. It's just terrible. It's so bad. And it's really, really boring. And another young adult adaptation that I was expecting to still enjoy, but I thought was garbage, The Hunger Games.
Oh.
I rewatched it. It's just terrible. I remember liking the books quite a lot when I read them, and I remember thinking the movies were decent, but the first movie, at least, is terrible.
Isn't Philip Seymour Hoffman in those movies? I might be...
He's in... I think he's in this... I want to say he's in...
Because I remember there being like a big deal when he died, and everyone's like, "Oh no, what are they gonna do with this character?"
I remember that, but it was... Yeah, he's specifically in the... He starts coming in the second one. He's not in the first movie.
Oh. Side note, I also watched Charlie Kaufman's movie this week, which...
I thought you watched that last week. Yeah.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, because I talked about Tenet, and you talked about that.
Oh. Well, then I watched it last week. It was
and
good.
It's still good.
It's still good.
I did watch a movie that I did enjoy, though. It was called L'Ain, I believe you pronounce it. L'Ain, or L'Ain, I'm not sure. It's a French film.
Mm-hmm.
It's translated into hate. I'm sure you've seen, like, the poster for it.
Yeah.
It was really good. It wasn't as good as I expected it to be. It just didn't really capture my attention. It was kind of just, a lot of it was kind of just like a slice of life kind of thing, like walking around, but then dealing with like repercussions of, you know, the world around us and stuff. It reminded me of like Train Spotting or something like that, or even like Killer of Sheep kind of, yeah. I liked it more than Killer of Sheep.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Sad day today.
Oh.
Yeah.
Someone wasn't a fan of Killer of Sheep.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about all I did this week. We've been watching Bleach more. We're almost done with season 2.
You can't see it. There's a bunch of Bleach
There's
behind
a bunch
me.
of Bleach behind Thomas. What goes on
51 volumes.
out of, I think there's only 76.
Yeah, so.
I bought all of those for like $100 from a guy.
Oh, nice.
I'm like, that's a really good deal.
It's pretty decent.
And I think I've only read the first like 5.
I need to read through the manga. I've decided. Because I
Just watch the anime.
Well, I watched the anime up until, like, the point in which, spoiler alert for Bleach!
No!
Not major spoilers,
No!
but minor spoilers.
No!
Skip ahead 30 seconds, but to the point where he's, like, fighting on the tower and he's about to fight Rukia's brother, and then...
Oh, yeah. He does that, like, every 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then the one
Yep.
person comes and knocks him out and is like, I'm gonna train you in, like, 3 days, or whatever the fuck it is.
Man. Did you stop there?
I stopped there. I don't remember why, but I got preoccupied with something else at the time.
I'm gonna go back to watching episode 837 of One Piece.
I read One Piece.
You don't watch the anime?
I'll typically do a once through once it's finished, like a saga.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a lot slower paced compared to the manga, which really drags it out. Like the One Piece anime could be like 300 to 400 episodes if it was paced
But
properly.
Instead, they made it 950.
Instead, they decided, we're like, we don't need to adapt a full chapter per episode. And it's like the standard's like 2 chapters per episode. Toei, please stop.
That's scary.
It is.
Oh, okay.
This is why you don't. This is why like seasonal anime is the way to go, and not long running weekly. Then you get shit like bad animation and filler.
I
and
just
pacing.
want to watch. That's why, like, I'm just only interested in usually like 13 episode things now. It's like,
Yeah.
besides like Bleach, I can't think of any anime I really want to watch that's more than like 50 episodes. I guess if you think of Mobile Suit Gundam as like one overarching thing, I'm like, I want to watch that all then.
Yeah, there's some anime. I think like 50 is like the big spot where it's like, oh, whoa, that's a pretty beefy like series. But I mean, I drank One Piece like it's nothing. So, but that's an unhealthy addiction.
Speaking of anime, we're watching anime this week.
Oh, really? Okay. I look forward to knowing what that is when we get there.
Or maybe I'll change it.
Maybe you will.
2 more Uwe Boll movies.
That's it. We're watching Blood Rain 2, 3, and Blubberella.
Okay. So let's go on to some questions.
Oh,
Of course.
Let me hit the
Oh,
here's question corner
Did
card.
you do it?
Yeah, it's the
Cool.
Yeah, it's a thing. With Pierre. Yeah.
Pierre's questions. Here we go. Number 1. In horror movies, is it better to show the monster or villain or not show them?
I don't think that's like a one size fits all thing.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the tone of the horror movie you're wanting to establish. Like, if you want something more serious, probably withhold the monster until like close to the climax.
Yeah.
To build up tension. But if you want a campy, fun, entertaining monster movie, show the monster like pretty much like have one scene where it kind of teases it in the shadows, but then like do the reveal and like have it be prevalent in the movie for like the 3 or 4 scenes they can afford to do it.
Child's Play 4.
Child's Play 4, Bride of Chucky.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that?
No.
Ah.
I've only seen the first one. I really did not like it, so.
Yeah. We can.
Speaking of which, we're watching that today. That's the anime pick. Oh, I should just pick that in the remake.
You could.
Both are bad.
I mean, keep in mind we're approaching October, the month of Scream Weens.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do for that.
Yeah, the DDD falls on me at the beginning of this October.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about
spooky director.
Well, I'm thinking about changing it up and not having it be a director but a franchise.
Oh, I thought we were gonna go, but a makeup artist, director. Deep dive.
That'd be cool. I'd be down to like do some like Greg Nicotero, Tom Savini, or
Naruto.
Oh, I'm forgetting the name of the guy who I'm thinking of who does Rick Baker. He does like the effects for Gremlins 2 and An American Werewolf in London.
We should watch the Rick and Morty movie.
They made a movie.
No. When it comes out.
When it comes out.
When it happens.
We'll get there.
We should make the Rick and Morty movie. You can be Morty. And I'll be
geez, Rick. That was pretty great, right? Pretty high effort on my end.
Here's my impression of Rick Sanchez.
Wubba lubba dub dub.
Holy shit. Is Justin Roiland in the room?
Justin Bieber here?
What?
Is he going to play the drums? All right. Yeah, I would agree with Thomas, though. I think it's just like, it just depends on the tone, what you're going for, what you're striving for. I usually prefer to have minimal contact with the actual creature because I usually like in horror when we focus on the family or the people that are being attacked or terrorized.
Boring. No, I'm just kidding.
A lot of people do think that's boring, which is
yeah.
fine, but that's the type of horror I usually enjoy more. So and I love monsters and I love creature designs, but I usually like the spectacle it gets if it comes out in the climax.
Yeah.
Number 2. What are your thoughts on an actor with a prosthetic limb having said limb replaced with a CGI natural limb in post-production? Pierre asked me this last night, and I'm like, what? Why?
I mean...
I'm glad we're on a video podcast, so now every time I read one of Pierre's...
They can see your eyes rolling in the back of your skull.
Yeah. I'll say what I said last night. I'm like, if the person whose limb it is, like, wants that to happen for whatever reason, sure. Like, okay, but I don't feel like you should just go replacing people's limbs, like, without their knowledge and consent.
Well, I'm sure they'd have to have his consent. They'd have to, like, put tracking dots and that sort of thing on there. Or, I mean, theoretically,
they don't have to. It won't be hard.
It would make it a lot harder than it needs to be. But, yeah, I mean, as long as everyone in the party's, like, consenting, like, if this actor who couldn't get this gig otherwise is perfectly fine with them CGIing a fake-looking arm onto him, I see no problem with it. As long as, everyone's okay with it, that's participating.
Question 3. Is the world ready for a live-action Clifford the Big Red Dog movie? Also, should Clifford speak in this hypothetical film? It's really weird because this film's happening. Like, Pierre asked me this last night, and I'm like, I guess Pierre doesn't know that there is a live-action Clifford movie in development.
Maybe he knew, but he just thinks we're not ready for it.
It was supposed to come out, I think, November of this year, but it got pushed back to November of next year. Oh, also, Candyman got delayed today until next year.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Because I was curious. I was like, am I gonna have to go like put on like?
Well, I was thinking they would either do that or, honestly, I think it'd probably do fine on video on demand.
I think it would too.
It's because it's not a huge horror movies in general. Yeah. I feel like are pretty good to go just on video on demand.
Yeah. Plus, it's produced by Jordan Peele, which gives it a leg up, and plus all the cult status of like Candyman. All of those fans would probably watch it. Yeah. I know I would.
If it did release, I would love to go see that at like a drive-through theater. I feel like a drive-in theater.
That'd be cool.
A double feature of the original and then remake. That'd be sick.
Yeah, no, that would be good.
But yeah, Clifford live action will be really horrifying probably because it's a live action animation hybrid. Obviously, they're not gonna get a giant red dog. It's gonna be a CG dog. It's gonna be pretty scary.
I don't know, man. I think that they should have just hired a real red dog.
I'm surprised. I don't know why they wouldn't just make an animated movie.
Yeah.
Because I would probably go see that. I have enough nostalgia for Clifford to be like, I want to see what kind of grand adventure he's going on.
I remember like reading some of the books.
Oh, I watched the show like all the time because I had PBS Kids was like the only cartoon channel I had. So
I didn't really watch PBS Kids. Instead, I watched shit like Child's Play and Nightmare on Elm Street. When I was a kid, because I didn't have like Disney or Nick or Cartoon Network, I watched PBS Kids, and then I would watch like Criminal Minds. Like those were like the only truth, or like Law and Order SVU. Nah, I feel it. I watched a lot of that growing up too, because my mom enjoyed the shit out of that show. She still watches it, and it's like, holy shit, they're on like season 30, and every episode is the same now. Like, why do you care?
I don't even think it's now. It's just kind of always been that way.
It's like
they're very formulaic. I feel like Criminal Minds, at the very least, like. There is some differences, like there's some fun stuff, and there's some cool characterizations.
I've seen like maybe like 1 or 2 episodes of Criminal Minds. So.
Congratulations, we're watching all like 15 seasons for next week podcast. All right, and we actually have some questions from somebody else today. Now I don't know how to pronounce this name. I'm not sure if this is a real name or like just an email address. I don't know. But this says it's from Arlsan Yogi. Question number 1. Arlsan. Arlsan.
Well, I hope that's not your real name because I just laughed at it. But
if it is, it's a cool name.
I'm sorry.
I just don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Tell me how you pronounce it. Question 1. What are some movies you two have watched on the podcast that have stuck with you? And I'll actually answer this for Thomas. Ghostmates.
No. I mean...
Doesn't it ever just creep into your mind?
Not really. No.
Splatter.
No. Unless I'm like...
Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas.
See, those are movies where it's like, if I'm like thinking like, oh man, what are some bad, forgettable movies we watched on the podcast? Those would maybe come to mind. No, the movies that have like stuck with me in like an impactful way. Lee Chang-dong's like whole fucking body of work. Particularly the two that I think pop up into my mind most often is surprisingly Greenfish and Oasis.
Greenfish, Oasis, obviously for me because it's like one of my favorites, and Secret Sunshine. But I'm surprised Greenfish actually does a lot, specifically like that phone booth scene. Always just fucking pops in my mind to like. I'll be laying in bed trying to sleep, and I'm just like think about the Greenfish phone booth scene.
I'll constantly think of spoiler alert for the final scene of Greenfish, but where they like go back to the house and they discover all the photos, and then she just starts crying in the car. And I'm just like, oh God, Lee Chang-dong,
I feel like, some of those movies, like, I feel there are some movies, like, the 10 out of 10s are obviously, like, stuck in my head pretty well. Especially, like, Scenes from a Marriage.
Yeah, Scenes from a Marriage. In my, like, top,
Vagabond. Yeah, Vagabond. Like, the things that were in my top 50 that weren't before, obviously. I think about Lost City of Z a lot as well.
That one.
But there are some that, like Greenfish, that I gave, like, 6s or 7s that have been sticking in my head a lot. And I'm like, maybe I need to rewatch that because this movie had such a like lasting impact on me.
It really did. And another one that like I definitely liked it when we watched it. In fact, I would probably go as far to say I loved it when we watched it, but I was like, it wasn't like the best. It was a little overhyped. No, The Master. That's one that...
The what?
The Master.
Oh, The Master. Oh, okay.
That's one that I might think about that one more often than I think about like some of PTA's other work. And it's strange because it's like, it's not like, because obviously like Magnolia and like There Will Be Blood are films that like slap harder on like initial impact, but it's like The Master had a bit of a delayed hit, and it's just like one of those that I just keep thinking about. It's like,
One movie that I don't even know if you really remember this movie, but that really I think about a lot. Do you remember The Insult?
Yeah, no, that was a good movie.
Yeah, I think about that movie a lot too. There's a lot we've watched hundreds of movies at this point, like probably close to 200 now for the podcast. So it's weird thinking about like...
Yeah, what episode are we on?
This is number 50...
It's like late 50s?
Oh, this is number 60.
Okay, so 60, average 2, so like 120
probably
plus
average
like the direct...
3, maybe even 3.5, because we do trilogies quite a bit now too.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we watched a lot of movies on here. You know what's a movie that I forget?
Oh, The Goddess, I also think about.
The Goddess is a good one, yeah. You know what's a movie that, sadly, I forget about that we watched? Like, I remember us watching it, but I remember fucking nothing from it.
What?
Vampire.
I remember, like, 2 scenes, but in general, I just wasn't that big of a fan of Vampire. Yeah. Like, I enjoyed it, but it was kind of just a forgettable film. And we watched that. It's been 11 months.
Oh, damn. It's been a while.
Vampire was pretty early on. And then I do still think about Akira Kurosawa's films that we watched quite a bit. Pretty much every director deep dive, I think about a lot of their films quite a bit.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Except maybe Uwe Boll.
Well, yeah.
But that was just... we'll see. And I'll probably forget most of his movies pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Except for the scene in House of the Dead where they're spinning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's not about David Lynch. Question 2 from them. What is your favorite movie title?
Oh, wow. It's a stumper right there. The first one that pops into my mind, I don't want to like solidify this as my favorite movie title, but I think The Killing of a Sacred Deer is a pretty bomb-ass title. I like titles like that. Like Killer of Sheep, I think, is also a
Killer
good
of Sheep
title.
is a fantastic title.
And it has like multiple kind of like layers with the film, which is also a kind of title I like.
I usually tend to like one word titles, or really long titles, like The Killing of a Sacred Deer. But one of my favorite titles is actually just Vagabond, because I also just love the word vagabond.
Yeah. Makes me think of the manga.
There are some titles that just like. I really like all of the titles for the Before trilogy. It just maybe it's because I love the movies so much, but they fill me with emotion.
Yeah.
Like Before Sunrise is a great title.
God, I hope they make that fourth movie where they're just in quarantine. I want it so bad.
And yeah, there's a lot of. I'm just looking at the movies we watched for the podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, My Girl.
Episode
one
or 2, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the first.
It was My Girl and
The World of Comico.
Yeah.
Yeah. That movie.
I do think about that movie quite a bit personally, but I enjoyed that movie a lot more than you did.
Yeah, I wasn't. Like, I didn't hate it, but I thought like, I don't know, I wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah, I'd probably just go with Vagabond. I don't know.
Yeah, probably I'm gonna say like Greenfish or The Master.
Okay, and final movie. What is something you think happens too much in movies?
Forced romances.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
It happens so often, and it's just like I love romance in movies. That's cool. Like, I love romantic movies, and I love romances that feel natural, but it's so often they're just... I don't even know why they do it, because nobody's really...
It's a check mark.
Nobody's really rooting for them. They're like, why is this happening? And it usually detracts so much from the film around it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I'd probably say the same thing. It's just really, really annoying to watch.
I agree.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for sending in their questions. As always, you can leave a comment on the YouTube or send us an email at twoweensandascreen@gmail.com.
Yeah.
All right. It's time.
Killer of Sheep.
Killer of Sheep.
Bam! There's the poster. For those of you who want to see it.
Now, it's not that I didn't like this movie. It's just that...
It didn't, like, reach your expectations?
It didn't reach my... I guess. And it's like, this is exactly the type of movie I love to see. You know, I love, like, these small-scale movies where people could argue nothing happens or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, but it's this and, like, Bicycle Thieves is another example of a movie that not a lot, like, happens that we've watched that a lot of people love that just didn't hit it for me. Which is really sad because... It's also kind of like L'Ain, the movie I watched. I also kind of felt the same way about that. I'm like, what, am I just in a mood? What's going on?
Maybe.
Because like I wanted to love Killer of Sheep, and there was a lot of it that I really did like. But overall, I'm just like, this wasn't really working for me. Which is sad because Charles Burnett, I watched one of his short films, and it was like 13 minutes, and that blew me away. So I was expecting, I'm like, yeah, this is going to do it. And then I just didn't really vibe with it. I don't know. You want to tell us what happens? Nothing.
Yeah, it's a slice of life movie. We follow multiple characters, but the main character we follow, what's his name? Henry? Might not be Henry. Look this up.
Oh God, no!
Oh, let me see. Killer of Stan. Yeah, so he's pretty much the main character. He's just this guy. He works in, I don't know the term for it, like a slaughterhouse for sheep.
Yeah, just a slaughterhouse.
Yeah. And basically...
And he's the killer of sheep.
He's the killer of sheep. Oh my god. But, yeah, basically it's just kind of about him coming to accept his life. Like, basically, so he's tired all the time. Like, you can tell he's not happy. He's not living his ideal life.
Yeah.
But the movie's about him trying to basically, like, compromise and find some sort of middle ground where he can be okay with it. That's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah, I would.
And there's not like a whole lot of like actions that show. Like it's not like there's a moment where he's like, I did this one thing for my family and it changed my outlook. It just kind of like happens.
It's just kind of watching a character go through the motions and like slowly self-reflect.
Yeah.
And as those as he self-reflects, he slowly changes his mind, or not even changes his mind, just accepts things. Because it's never about like loving his life; it's just about accepting his life.
Because just to explain my general feelings on the film, like I liked it, but I didn't feel like super strongly about it. This might be one that I think would benefit from like a rewatch after watching maybe some of his other work. Yeah, perhaps. But there are definitely things I do really like about this movie. The title being one. Yeah. The Killer of Sheep, because it refers to him and his job. But also, I think it's kind of like multi-layered. I think because the kids are a big, not like a big focus of the movie, but they do get
they're enough of a focus to matter, yeah.
They get their allotment of screen time. And I think they're the Killer of Sheep. Because, there's that whole line about how, he's like, I'm up. And it's like, yeah, counting sheep. And it's like, so it's like indicating that they're kind of like his family life. Oh, sorry, I've got a bit of a yawn burp going. Okay.
Yawn burp.
Yawn burp.
Yawn burp. Oh, my ass! Oh, my ass has been killing me from sitting on chairs.
Yeah, and these chairs probably don't help, but at least they don't crick.
Except on my fat ass a little bit.
Yeah. But,
I'm too large.
But yeah, I think they're the killer of his, like, literal sleep. He's not getting much sleep. I think they're the killer of, like, his dreams. And yeah, but... So basically, yes, stuff happens. Like, there's, his kid who is kind of a little asshole. Pours so much sugar in his cereal. My jaw was agape. I was like, holy shit, what the fuck are you doing? But
probably tastes sugary.
I would
hope so.
I would put money on that. But yeah, it basically it's just kind of like a working class slice of life film.
So it's something like Patterson or Line or Bicycle Thieves or
Stranger Than Paradise.
Yeah, we've watched numerous. Even I would go so far as like saying The Vagabond's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Scenes from a Marriage, like the scenes from a Marriage and Vagabond, and even Patterson are more like structured, and this is more
loose.
Yeah, loose, but. The same type of film. That's why, and those are like my favorite types of films. So I'm like, I'm gonna love this movie. Yeah. And maybe it was my own expectations, but it just didn't pull me in. But there were things I liked. I liked that. So like the camera work is pretty like.
Yeah, it's very gritty.
It's very gritty. It
documentary like.
Yeah, it's when you use like a handy cam or just like handheld cameras, it can evoke a sense of like. Personality in the cameraman, like it makes it feel like you're a character that's present there. Mm-hmm. It's like why found footage can seem so scary. Is like you feel like you're there, or that's the intent at least. So I feel like in that it's like you're supposed to be in here watching these people in their everyday lives. You're supposed to be right there. While in like Moonlight, everything's like really well shot and like everything's really steady though. So it's like you're an observer instead of a participant. In this, you're a participant. I really, really like that. But it's just like everything that's in the movie makes you feel still like you're an observer, I guess. Like the movie itself feels like a play to me. Like a lot of it feels like you're watching people come up and monologue and then walk off stage, which is fine, but it doesn't really feel like it meshes very well with that camera work of being like a present person inside the movie.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It doesn't feel like it meshes super well. But like, I love that idea of like, it's pretty much just a play on screen, but just, I don't know, it failed to capture my attention a lot of the times. I thought it felt really long. which is sad because it's not long. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. Also, that dog mask is fucking terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
I think my biggest complaint is the scene where they show the little girl dressing for no reason, and it's just like, was that necessary? Like,
I mean, I understand, like, his intent, you know, it's just, this is what everyone does, but it's just like, why?
yeah.
Why? It's just a frustrating movie, because I feel like I should really enjoy it, but it doesn't quite link up correctly. It's really sad, because Moonlight, spoiler, is like a big favorite of mine. Yeah. So I rewatched it before I watched Killer of Sheep, and I was like riding a highway. I'm like, oh yeah, and that was just this morning. It was like 8 a.m. I watched Moonlight, finished Moonlight at 10. Started watching Killer of Sheep. I'm like,
I watched,
and then I would smile every once in a while because I'm like, that's a fun scene. This is a good time. And then,
what were some like little one-off scenes that
I liked? I feel like I don't know if I was just like. The movie was just losing my attention by it, but I felt like most of the scenes early on I enjoyed quite a bit. And just as it went on, I don't know if it was like how like just like the everyday grind just kind of wore on me, because that's what it's about, and I get that, but maybe it just made me lose attention. But I felt like I enjoyed most of the early scenes of the movie.
Yeah, some of my favorites, like I like the scene where the kid who's like probably gay goes up and he's just like riding his bike up to this like crowd of girls, and he's like get out of my way, you skag, and he pushes one of them and they all just gain up on him and beat the shit out of him, like push him off his bike, and his bike's broken. I'm like, yeah, get out of here. I thought that scene was pretty funny. And there's a scene later where like they're like out on the porch, and he's like, oh, there's some nasty ass girls walking by, and they're like, shut up, you gay. And it's just like
I don't know why, but I really, really like the framing of the shot and the scene. It's like really early, so in the first couple minutes where all the kids are just playing on the train tracks on the railroad.
That made me nervous.
It did make me nervous. And I think that's what it is. I think it was just like, this is just an everyday situation. This is what like reality is for them. But like looking on as an onlooker, it's just nerve wracking. I'm like, that kid's head is underneath a train.
Get out of there.
So I think I really enjoyed that, seeing that. And I don't know, I thought it was a really good start to the movie because it really helps cement like the feelings. But I don't know, it didn't fall apart to me. I still liked it. It's just, I just didn't love it. And I feel like I'm just going to forget about it. Which is sad because I feel like I want to rewatch it. But it's so hard to rewatch a movie that you're like, oh yeah, this might get better on a rewatch, but you weren't super hot on it in the first place. Because I could just watch a movie that I think I'll enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, like, I liked it. I thought it was fine.
Me too. But
yeah, it just didn't. You were expecting much more from it.
Yeah. Which is, you could fault my own expectations, I guess. Yeah. But I still do really want to watch Charles Burnett's other film.
Oh, of course. I want to Sleep with Anger.
Yeah, that one specifically. I want to watch most of his other movies.
Yeah, like My Brother's Wedding is another one I really want to see.
The Glass Shield I do want to watch, but My Brother's Wedding and To Sleep with Anger is the ones that I've heard the best things about.
Yeah.
But anyway,
fun facts about this movie. It was actually like his like student graduate film, which I think that's pretty cool that like a student graduate film went on to be like an actual film.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first films ever made. No, to be accepted into the that thing.
National Film Registry?
Yes.
How did I know what that? I'm just psychic.
Yeah, I was watching this interview with him, and he was talking about like when they called him and told him about it, but his kids were being super loud at home, and he thought it was just some film festival. So he was like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And then he got a call back later, and he's like, "Wait, what? That's what that call was about? Oh shit!"
I wasn't even paying attention.
Yeah, so you can see where the Inspirato came from with this one.
I'm gonna give this movie a 6.
I would give it a 7 myself. So 6 point
Pretentious asshole.
6.5.
6.5.
All right, I guess.
Can you switch your little thing over to Moonlight?
Moonlight.
You got the poster?
I do have the poster there.
The poster.
Yeah, there you go.
The poster.
Man.
Moonlight's fucking amazing.
Yeah, so I saw this movie once before. And the first time I saw it, I thought it was mostly great, but I didn't like the third act as much. I thought it had dropped there.
The third act's like one of my favorite parts of the movie.
No.
Did you feel better about the third act?
I feel much better about the whole movie. But I came away with it, and I think I understand why I didn't.
You're homophobic.
How did you know?
We figured it out!
Whoa!
Yes!
No, is it Mahershala? Is that how you pronounce his name? Mahershala Ali? The actor from Green Book? I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but his character,
he's not there. He's only in the first act.
He's only in the first act, and I think I was so butthurt because I wanted him to be the main character of the movie because I love, like, don't get me wrong, I love this movie.
It's Mahershala.
Mahershala?
I think so.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I probably should have looked it up before coming over here and recording this podcast, but it slipped my mind.
That's only like half his first name. He just goes
I know that's the abbreviated one. But fucking, what's it called? I think that he has a really interesting arc in this movie, and I think that right as it starts to get really interesting, it cuts away and he's dead, and I'm just like,
I think that's like interesting. I think that's really interesting to do, though.
Yeah, no, like
it's
I said,
why I like it's like in Psycho.
Kind of.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the main
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
I think it's a really interesting idea to do, and I think that because they kill him off screen, because it's just like through the passage of time, there's this really interesting thing where like his presence is overhanging through the whole movie.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's very blatant in the sense that fucking Chiron pretty much transforms into him, or what he remembered him as, kind of thing.
And I just want to clarify this, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm like shitting on the rest of the film because he's not in it. Like, I think the rest of the film is still like a fucking magnificent, stellar movie. Like,
he's just so good.
Yeah, he's just so good that there's that part of my heart that can't help but want a whole movie that's just his art.
I think about this, like, there's so much character and personality in each of the three like big acts that I think each one could be its own film. It could be a trilogy of films, and I would not complain at all.
Yeah, no, this film really leaves you wanting more in a good way.
Yeah, of just like you want to spend more time with like Chiron and
like I wish this was like fucking Scenes from a Marriage and was just 5 hours long.
Even like if it was a miniseries of like 3 1.5 hour parts,
I will say I think that they definitely could have added an extra 10 minutes to the film to make it 2 hours and given a bit more to
second part?
Not to the second part, but to a specific character. I can't remember her name, but Ali's girlfriend in the movie. Teresa, yeah. I think I like her character. Like, I think she's a very pure, nice character, but I don't think that there's much there in terms of like depth of writing. I get that. I think they could have given like when he comes back at the end, like they could have like tossed a 10 or less minute scene in there for her, but instead it's just mentioned like, oh yeah, I saw her off screen.
I kind of like that she's not super. It feels like neither her or his mother are super in depth because they feel like they should be the same character in the sense. Like, both of them are seen in like really weird situations where she's trying to be the best she can be, and his mother is at like the worst she is, at least in the second part specifically. Yeah, because you see this like downward spiral starting in the first part. I guess we should talk about what this movie's about.
Yes. So it's about a boy. Yeah, he goes.
Gay boy.
Yeah, he's gay. He doesn't really know it in the beginning. It's one of those things where, basically every adult in his life projects it onto him because of the way he walks and acts and
his small stature, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, like I feel like it's perfectly fine to be gay and be gay at that age, but like I feel like the projection of it is like, or not even the projection of it, but the like negative connotation that he experienced of it, like growing up.
That's why it's so like. There's so many sweet parts to the fucking first act.
My favorite scene is probably the scene where he's at the table where it's like, he's like, he asks, he's like, what's a faggot? And he's like, well, that's a term used to make gay people feel bad about themselves. And he's like, well, am I a faggot? And he's like, no, you're not a faggot. You could be gay, but don't let anyone call you a faggot. Unless, and then the girlfriend's like, no. He's like, all right, no.
He's like, well, that kid's like 9 years old. Don't get into that. He'll learn.
Yeah, he'll figure it out on his own down the road if he wants to be called that or not. Yeah. But yeah,
no, that seems really, really powerful and really good.
Yeah, no, this movie's big theme is be yourself. He struggles a lot because he's called Little when he's a little kid. And then he goes by his real name in the middle segment, and then he goes with a nickname given to him in the third segment. So he's always like kind of like, it seems like he's always struggling to be himself. Yeah. Which makes sense given, the context of the film. And just society in general.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like, the first part's really hard to watch right at the beginning, and then the end of it's really nice, It's like, hey, people are treating him with dignity and showing him respect and stuff. And then the second part's probably the most brutal one.
Yeah, it's the lowest point.
But it's also like, there's the scene of him coming on the beach.
Yeah.
Which is... I said it really weird, but it's a very well shot scene. It's a nice scene. Like,
yeah.
Like,
Can we talk about how this movie opens with a long shot, though?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I just want to mention that it opens with
a
long shot.
Say it opens with a long shot.
It opens with a long shot. He gets out of the car and it follows him over, and it's a long take, and I like it. I had to rewind it because I was like, wait, is this scene?
There's a couple of like this movie's gorgeous. Like,
yeah,
so good. I really want to see Barry Jenkins' other movie that he made recently, the
B Street.
Yeah, Beale Street.
Yeah.
I heard it wasn't as good, but I still want to see it. I've heard it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's about straight people, though. Do not like that. But, yeah, so the second part has him, act on his feelings and make out with somebody and come. And then that same guy beats the shit out of him the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fucking brutal. But
yeah,
I can't help but just feel really great when he fucking hits the guy in the back of the head with the chair. Just for a moment. And I'm like, oh, that's bad for him. But I'm just like, yeah! Just for a moment.
That guy earned the chair.
Yeah. And then in the third part, he ends up being a drug dealer.
Yeah, he gets taken away at the end of the second part after hitting the guy with the chair.
And he moves. His mother eventually gets help. So it's just showing like the aftermath of all these events and how he's like has this persona of kind of like a thug figure, or like somebody that's going really hard. He keeps referring to, and he meets up with is it Kevin?
Kevin's
Kevin. And they're talking pretty much about the same stuff, and eventually they're talking about like how Kevin was like the only person to ever really touch him, and it's been like 12 years or something like that.
Like over a decade.
Yeah, and it's really sad, and then it just ends on a shot of them like hugging and like Tyrone like crying.
Yeah, just each other in their embrace.
Yeah,
really sweet.
Yeah, it's really sweet. And this movie's like really a fucking emotional roller coaster all over the place.
Yeah, no, it really is.
But there's like There's so many great scenes, and I really, really like all of the acting in this movie. And every time I'm shocked at how well like Trevante Rhodes, who plays Chiron in his adult form, is able to emulate like specifically Chiron from like high school. Like in his mannerisms, because he's huge. He's a huge dude. Yeah. But he like mimics it. He has the same like personality, and it's really fascinating. I think that's why I love the third part so much. It's so like interesting to watch like him drop that like hard facade when he's talking to like his mom and he starts like crying. Like I just love that. There's so many great scenes in the third part.
There are.
Like this, it's so pure, I guess, to watch him like drop his like mask and show his like emotional vulnerability because he's still like the same kid.
Yeah.
I think it's less so like he's emulating the smallest version of him because you've changed so much, but like he's the exact same as he is in high school, except he's like huge now.
Yeah. You know, he basically just went on and basically fell down the path of being like a drug dealer, which I think another reason why I didn't like the third act originally was I had such an emotional response to that where I was like, no, you can't. He wouldn't want that for you. Like,
yeah, but that's like the whole point.
That is the whole point. I understand. It was just a knee-jerk reaction. But yeah, on the second watch, I enjoyed it thoroughly, much more.
Yeah, literally the only thing with the movie is I just wish it was longer, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, and I love I think the length's really good, and I think I really like how all the characters are. Yeah. And I see what you're saying about Teresa, but like I was saying, I like that it feels like right where Teresa's right where he needs her to be, and then he's not present because his mom's at a place of healing and he can like talk to her. So like from a narrative perspective, not necessarily both characters need to be present.
Yeah.
I do think so. I don't know if like Teresa coming back for like an epilogue to her character would really like do anything structurally for the film besides being like, so I don't know if it was really needed, but I get what you're saying. I move my hands a lot when I talk, and I feel like I'm going to be watching this podcast and just be like, why am I moving around so much?
Yeah, maybe.
And you're going to be like, oh, I had a booger dripping off my nose the whole day. But yeah, do you want to say anything else? Yo, I hadn't heard the song Classic Man in a minute. I'm a classic man.
Yeah.
And I really like that song. I don't know why, but I started playing. I'm like, oh yeah. It's been a minute.
I almost thought the movie was starting with Wesley's Theory from To Pimp a Butterfly, because it uses the sample from the Every is a Star song. But
good soundtrack in this movie.
It's great.
A great movie. Really like this movie. Thomas, what would you give Moonlight by Barry Jenkins?
I think originally, when I had seen it the first time, I had given it an 8. This time, I'm going to bump it up to a 9.
And I'm going to stick with what I had originally, which was a 10.
Nice.
I love this movie. I was really big fan of this movie. It's very epic.
I agree.
All right. So, I'll actually give you a couple options here. We can watch anime series or trilogy of animated movies.
How long is the series?
I think it's 5 hours. It's like 350 minutes. Or it's like 5 or 6 hours. They'd probably be about the same length.
Okay. Let's go with the series.
Okay. It is called Giant Robo, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Okay. Anywhere I can watch this?
I don't know.
Okay.
You know, where you watch anime. I don't know if it's on Crunchyroll or anything, but it's pretty easy to find anime.
Let's see. I'll find it somewhere. It's on Netflix Japan, but I don't have a VIP.
The subbed version is on YouTube. So at the very least, if you need to, you can just watch it on YouTube.
Okay.
All right. Quick little episode today.
Oh,
About an hour.
40 to 60 minutes each. Holy shit.
I think it's only 5. It's just like an OVA, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Let me make sure, though. Before we fucking go crazy.
7 40-minute episodes. Okay.
So that's...
Probably still roughly
5.
5-ish hours.
5.5. Is that alright?
That's fine.
Okay, we'll watch that.
Epic.
Bye!
Adios.